So there is a very good reason why hospitals and tech, university, Ivy League, university, genome lab hospitals are so involved with tech. Well, it kind of goes back to the Nazis. If you really want to go back that far, it really does. But for the sake of this video, let's just focus on present and the USA's history. So, since 2020, over 500 million individuals have had their health records stolen or compromised at least once, a number that exceeds the total U.S. population because many people have been affected multiple times. This means roughly 3 out of 4 Americans have had their health data stolen in cyber attacks, which has, as a nurse, has begged the question to me, not that I would want to go back to paper charting, but your health records were safer under paper charting because they weren't as easy to get to. So the way it works, because I think do I have any evidence for what I'm about to say right now? No. So that's just my opinion. I think it's been very, very suspicious, let's say, that over the years I've watched the healthcare system get worse, as I've said, okay? Cut more staff, do worse things, be more unethical, cut nurses out of the loop entirely if they can. And then what they do is they've monopolized, of course, which is a big part of the problem and never should have been allowed to happen because we're about capitalism, not crony capitalism. And then every time they monopolized, all healthcare records are all connected. Okay? So it's an easy way to get everybody's DNA. That's where I'm going with this. It's an easy way to get everybody's DNA. Because the fact is that research participants, since like 2008, they've been dropping off. Because whether people realize it or not, that the universities and their research practices have come under fire before. And it's not just in Chicago, you can look into it, but I'm just using this as an example. This is from 2003. Hospital used fraud to rush liver transplants. U.S. government officials claimed 3 Chicago hospitals exaggerated the seriousness of conditions of some patients so they could get liver transplants sooner. So, and this is just one example, okay? And so when they have done research, I'm not saying these people, but if you want to know, this was all your main hospitals in Chicago. This was Northwestern, this was University of Chicago, and University of Illinois, of course, the biggest ones in Chicago, all tied to this problem. So if you think, and this was 2021 talking about the past history, the transplant scandal hits 3 hospitals. And as I said, with Northwestern, I was working there during the height of COVID, and they were just so proud of themselves over the double lung transplants they had done during lockdowns. That's part of my disgust with them too, was just they constantly bragged about it and, how did you get the organs? But they've come under fire back in the 70s for some unethical practices too, which is what this all refers to. So if you think people don't know that, they do. So what's happened over the years, unfortunately, and it's the university's own fault, is that they don't have as many participants that are willing to take part in their studies. Why? Well, the number one reason is because of unethical practices. There has been a persistent decline in the number of people willing to participate in research studies, and this trend is well documented across various fields. One of the biggest reasons, mistrust, previous negative experiences, past negative interactions with research or concerns about confidentiality and exploitation make people hesitant. Concerns over ethical abuses, especially due to unethical practices in the past, are a significant reason why many people are reluctant to participate in research studies. Past negative experiences, poor informed consent, procedures, and fear of exploitation have led to less people willing to take part in studies. The mistrust is often rooted in historical cases where research was conducted without proper ethical oversight, resulting in harm or disrespect to participants. So what happens then when you have this problem, when you have less people willing to take part in research? Well, the science can't live with that. That's not acceptable. And so the next best thing is for tech and for the hospitals to work together, and then they start monopolizing over time. And the hospitals, and when I say hospitals, it's because I'm talking about the hospitals tied to the university hospitals, where the most research and studies are done. And there's been this belief that everybody trusts these universities. No, people don't. They don't. So that's been an ongoing problem for the research departments, okay, which is their own fault. But tech has helped them in that area, because by all the hospitals monopolizing, by them all becoming on the same medical record, by them all being controlled by AI, now, especially in the past, since 2020, we've had nothing but constant cyber attacks, which means some people just happen to get a hold of your DNA. Isn't that interesting? And nobody ever ties it back to a whole bunch of collusion going on. Well, I'm sure that'll come out eventually, but that's what my bet is that I mean, the amount of HIPAA violations is massive, but these universities and hospitals don't care. That's why I say it doesn't do any good to find these people or regulate these people. When you start putting some of these executives in jail, some of these researchers, then maybe you'll have something ethical again, or people that will stop and think before they do anything. But because we don't have any government that does anything about this, this is why they steal your stuff. That's why. And Northwestern does have a massive genome lab. This is their New Gene Project. The New Gene Project is a genomic biobank and biospecimen repository run by Northwestern University Center for Genetic Medicine in partnership with Northwestern Medicine. It collects and stores DNA samples along with associated health and medical information from patients at Northwestern affiliated hospitals and clinics. The project's goal is to help researchers study how genes influence the development, treatment, and prevention of common diseases by providing access to coded DNA samples and longitude health data. New Gene participants consent to genetic research, and their health data is periodically updated from electronic medical records. The project supports a wide range of genetic studies. And then they're tied also with the national research networks like eMERGE, which focuses on genome-wide association studies using EMR-driven phenotypes. New Gene is IRB approved, HIPAA compliant. Yeah, that's always what they say. And then it's, again, after the fact that you find out all this stuff, okay? So when they don't have the participants, I mean, for this, apparently they did. But I don't think they really need any participants anymore. When they have everybody's DNA, they don't really need to ask. Now, they wouldn't admit to that, but I'm sure it will come to the surface. My guess is. From Northwestern's this site, it says that they collect and store DNA samples and associate what I just said. So to be examined, and it's always, because we're going to come up with cures and we're going to, find answers to this and that. And it's like, yeah, and people have heard that, and yet you always end up coming under fire for unethical practices. It's been an ongoing problem with the biggest university hospitals. So when everybody's healthcare record has been stolen, and again, that's data that can't be changed. You can't get a new social security number or new driver's license. Once somebody has your DNA, they know everything about you. We should find out who the cyber attackers are and who they have given that DNA to attack or the hospitals.